stood in the middle of a Whole Foods or a Costco, watching a local casually swipe their card for a meal that costs as much as your parents used to make in a week, and wondered, how do they do it so lightly? We, the children living far from home, often grow up with a steely belief: to make money, you must sweat. We watched our parents trade every hour standing in a kitchen, every bowed head filing nails, just to exchange for wrinkled cash bills. But there is a brutal truth that few will tell you. In the world of the truly wealthy, they don't use money to make money. They use something else. While the poor sell their time to earn capital, the rich use capital to buy back their time. And painfully enough, that capital of theirs is often completely free. Today, let's sit down, pour a cup of tea, and talk about how the rich make something out of nothing. Not to learn tricks, but to understand, have we been working hard in the wrong way all these years? Remember the first days your family set foot in this new land? Was the first financial lesson you were taught, save money? We Vietnamese have a habit of hoarding cash under the mattress, in safes, or in rice jars. We are terrified of debt. In Asian culture, debt is shame. Debt is a burden. But here is the greatest paradox. For the wealthy in the West, debt is not a burden. Debt is their most excellent employee. They use other people's money, OPM, to build empires. They don't wait until they save up $1 million to buy a building. They use credibility, they use a business plan, and they use the bank's money. Do you see the difference? Our parents use the past, which is accumulated money, to buy the future. The rich use the future, which is profit potential, to buy back the present. I once met a Vietnamese uncle who owned a nail salon in Cali for over 20 years. He had $500,000 in cash, but he didn't dare open a second shop because he was afraid failure would wipe out his retirement fund. At the same time, a 25-year-old American guy with 0 cents in his pocket convinced investors to pour $2 million into a startup idea that didn't even exist yet. We often pride ourselves on living safely, owing nothing to anyone. But what is the price of that safety? It is stagnation. We hold on to money so tightly that money becomes our master instead of us mastering it. We are afraid of losing capital, so we never dare to use things that require no capital. So what are these no-capital resources the rich use? If they don't use money, what do they exchange for assets? It turns out, cash is the cheapest form of capital. The rich understand that there are 3 other forms of capital, more precious, more powerful, which all of us possess, yet the poor often forget or sell cheaply. The first type of capital, credibility capital. We Vietnamese often say labor for profit, but the rich say credibility as capital. You don't need money to buy a shipment if the supplier trusts that you can definitely sell it. Look at self-made billionaires. Even when they are broke, they can still mobilize billions of dollars with just a phone call. Why? Because they have credibility. Look back at our community. Sometimes for a few $100s of immediate profit, we are willing to trade our credibility with customers, with fellow countrymen. We cut corners. We use slightly cheaper ingredients. We think we are saving capital, but in reality, we are burning the most precious capital, trust. The rich never sell their credibility cheaply, because that is their credit card with an infinite limit. The second type of capital, relationship capital. There is a great saying, your network is your net worth. The rich don't go to dinner just to eat. They eat to connect. They create alliances. They help others before they need help. They know who has money, who has talent, and who has opportunity. They stand in the middle, connecting these dots and creating value without spending a single dime of their own money. It is called power brokering. And what about us? Vietnamese overseas often live in clusters. We have a community, but do we really have a network? Or do we just gather to compare whose child studies better, whose house is bigger? A network is for lifting each other up, not for pushing each other down. If we knew how to use unity as capital, perhaps the position of the Vietnamese people would be very different. The third type of capital, intellectual capital. This is the fairest one. In this era, an idea, a special skill, a solution to someone else's problem can be exchanged for equity, exchanged for cash, instantly. The rich don't do things that anyone can do. They possess information and skills that few have. They sell brain power, not muscle power. Do you realize our parents sold their health, the most finite resource, to exchange for money? The rich use knowledge, an infinite resource, to create money. One side gets more exhausted the more they work. The other side gets sharper the more they work. That is not fate. That is a choice of vehicle. Saying this, perhaps many of you will feel a pang of sadness. Are we blaming the previous generation for not knowing how to get rich? Are we criticizing the Asian way of living, slow and steady? No, absolutely not. The only reason our parents had to use sweat equity and cling to cash is because they had no other choice. When setting foot in a strange land with no English, no degrees, no connections, the only thing they had was their two hands. They accepted being poor in capital to buy us the opportunity to become rich in knowledge today. They accumulated cash so we could accumulate knowledge. They bowed their head to work so we could lift our heads to build networks. Their sacrifice is the foundation. And our responsibility, the next generation, is not to repeat that arduous path. Our responsibility is to use the non-monetary capital I just mentioned, credibility, networks, and knowledge, to take the family further. Don't feel guilty when you don't work manually as hard as your parents. Don't feel guilty when you use financial leverage instead of breaking the piggy bank. The greatest act of filial appreciation is not how much money you send back. It is proving that the sacrifice of your parents created a generation that no longer has to sell their health to survive. You succeed by intellect and credibility. That is the most complete answer to the sweat that has fallen. So what will you do tomorrow? Will you continue to live in fear of losing money? Or will you start building credibility capital? Will you continue with pointless conversations, or will you start building a real relationship capital? Will you continue to sell your time, or will you sharpen your intellectual capital so no one can replace you? In America, or anywhere in this world, true wealth is not measured by the balance in a bank account. It is measured by the number of people who trust you, the number of people who are willing to cooperate with you, and the value you bring to this life. Cash can be lost to inflation, to risk, to illness, but credibility, networks, and knowledge are assets no one can steal, and they never depreciate. That is sustainable wealth, wealth without capital. Life is a long journey, and each generation runs a relay leg. Our parents ran the steepest, roughest leg with bare feet. Now, as the baton is passed into your hands, run with intellect, with wisdom, and with a grateful heart. If you are listening to this video, perhaps you are pondering the road ahead, or perhaps you are remembering the hunched back of someone who raised you. Share your story in the comments. What kind of capital are you using to build your life? Tell me, because we are here not just to learn how to make money, but to learn how to live worthy of what we have been given. Don't forget to hit subscribe, because on this journey, we should not walk alone. Thank you for listening. Wishing you peace and strength.